This is a pretty rough drawing of what your heart would look like if we took a human heart and we cut it in two, and then we opened it up, okay? A mammalian heart, for that matter, all right? Because we are mammals. Now, we have 4 chambers to our heart, all right? 2 smaller chambers at the top and 2 larger chambers at the bottom. The smaller chambers are referred to as atriums, okay? 2 atria, 1 atrium. So here we've got our right atrium, and here we've got our left atrium. Now, the 2 larger chambers in the heart, those are called your ventricles. All right, again, we've got our right ventricle. And then we've got our left ventricle. Now, notice how one side is written in blue, the other is written in red. The colors here have everything, and it's not to say that your actual heart, the right side of your actual heart is blue and the other side is red. No. Okay, your heart is a pinkish reddish tissue. Blood flowing through your heart looks like blood. Deoxygenated blood actually kind of looks a little bit more red wine color, whereas oxygenated blood is brighter red. Okay, it is actually naturally brighter red, and that has to do with the interaction of the iron and the hemoglobin. It actually gives off a reddish color, a bright red color. Okay, and when that oxygen is removed and carbon dioxide is put in there, the actual color of the red blood cell dulls a little bit. Turns more like a maroony sort of color. Okay, so we're going to stay with blue and we're going to stay with red. Now, when blood first arrives from the body to the actual heart, all right, its first stop in the heart is into the actual right atrium. And it comes in through the largest of the blood vessels. Okay, the largest of the veins in our body. That vein is known as the vena cava, right? Largest one. Now that blood, of course there are little valves right here. Okay, there's a little valve that opens, then closes. Gets pushed open, then closes. As soon as the atrium is done, like pumping out the blood, that valve will open to get new blood into it. Because we know that a circulatory system is always in motion. At any one time, your heart is pumping and it's getting blood from the body and sending more blood to the body. Okay, it has to. If the system stops working, then gas exchange in the cells and nutrient delivery doesn't occur. And that's the whole point of the circulatory system, right? So now, I want you to actually notice these little flaps right here. What do you notice between the 2 of them? Do they look the same? They're different. Now, the one on the right side of the heart is actually, it's the major valve. These 2 are the major valves in the heart. Okay, these major kind of opening and closing doors that push blood from the atrium to the ventricle. Okay, now what ends up happening here is if we look at this guy is actually, all right, circular, and it is divided into 3 different flaps. And they open up and then they all close in on one another. And then they open up and they all close in on one another. That valve is known as your tricuspid valve. So once blood comes into the actual atrium, it then gets pushed through the tricuspid into the right ventricle. So we're going to sit here and we're going to go 1 and then through 2. Now, I want you to look at the walls of the heart for a second. I drew them in. They're in black. What do you notice between the right side of the heart and the left side of the heart? in that image? Is one bigger than the other? Which one is bigger? The left side of the heart is bigger than the right side. And there's a reason for that. Because the right side of the heart pumps blood a very short distance away. It is going to pump that deoxygenated blood where? To the lungs, to the alveoli of the lungs. So here, this blood vessel that actually leaves is going to make its way up to, okay, your actual lungs. And we're going to draw the lungs as purple. There's your little bronchioles. Now, this vessel here, and this is why earlier you might remember that we talked about the fact that arteries always leave the heart. They don't necessarily always carry oxygen-rich blood. So leaving the heart, we have an artery here known as your pulmonary artery, because it's bringing blood from the right atrium to the heart for gas exchange. Now, in the heart, and there's more than that, these actually break off as it gets to the lungs. This breaks off into so many different little blood vessels, and every little capillary surrounds all the alveoli, and all this gas is being exchanged, and all this is happening at one time. Many vessels. Okay, we just drew one. And here's the deal. Now, blood is oxygen rich. So where does oxygen rich blood want to go ultimately? It wants to go to the cells of the body. But from the lungs, it doesn't have the pressure or the power to get there. So where does it have to go to get that power? It's got to go back to the heart. Now, we know that blood vessels going to the actual heart are known as veins. Okay, so this is your pulmonary vein. And this is one of the only veins, it is the only vein that carries oxygen-rich blood. All the other veins carry deoxygenated blood. Okay, just like your pulmonary arteries are the only ones that carry oxygen-poor blood. All the other arteries branch off from the big artery leaving the heart, full of oxygen. Okay, so then blood actually goes in very similar to, the right side. At the exact same time, blood is being pumped into your left atrium. Okay? And then from the left atrium, it goes through the little door here, right? It goes through this door to the actual left ventricle. Now, this door is different than your tricuspid. This little door here only has 2 flaps. It is known as your bicuspid valve. Bi for 2. Okay, so this is here. This is, and I want to do that. I want to do it in red. That is your bicuspid. Okay, so 2 flaps. Okay, so those are the 2 big differences. Why does one side have 3 and the other have 2? Who knows? All right, it doesn't really impede the flow of blood. All right, now blood here is going to pool in your left ventricle, and here's where I want you to notice. Okay, here's where I actually want you to notice what's going on with all of the muscles that surround the left ventricle. This is all muscle, because your heart at the end of the day is a muscle. And the left side of the heart has thicker muscle surrounding that ventricle than the right side. Because where is that ultimately pumping blood? It's pumping it all over the body. So that pump's got to be more powerful than the pump on the right side. It's got to go further. Okay, so that pump happens and it dumps out blood into the largest of the arteries. And the largest artery is called your aorta. And your aorta, very soon after the heart, branches off into two very big arteries. Okay, one goes up to feed your brain, and the other one actually follows your spine down the middle, and it's got branches that come off and then branch off. Your aorta actually finishes down in your pelvis where it branches off into both your legs. Okay? Now, your aorta is then going to go to our little friend here. We're going to call this the body. Here's your little person. Okay, and the aorta is actually going to go into little capillaries. It's going to break off, and it's going to go into the entire body. Gas exchange is going to occur. See how I drew the body in purple? Because that's where gas exchange is occurring. And once gas exchange occurs, we have our little capillaries, which will eventually dump in to our large blood vessel and go right back up into our vena cava, which goes right back into the heart, and the cycle begins again. So if I was one blood cell, how many times do I actually go through the heart in one continuous cycle? I actually go through the heart twice. Okay? I've got one loop here, and we're actually going to draw this in bright green. Okay? I'm going to darken this just a wee bit. Now, if I start off here, I go through the actual pulmonary circuit back to the heart. And then I go through the systemic circuit and I get back to the heart. So one loop is like a figure 8. Okay, that's why we say the human body has a dual circulatory system. We have our pulmonary circulation, and that's heart to lungs, lungs to heart, for oxygenation to occur, gas exchange to occur. And then we've got our systemic circulation, and that's heart to body, body back to heart. Okay, where the gas exchange occurs again, only this time it's giving nutrients and oxygen to the cells and taking carbon dioxide and waste away. And on the way, it'll get rid of the waste. And then it'll make its way back to the lungs to get rid of the carbon dioxide waste. Okay?